Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the ASEAN Center for Energy's webinar. My name is Amira Balkis, and I will be your MC for today. So, um, if it is your first time coming to our webinar, this is ASEAN Center for Energy, or so-called ACE, and this webinar is actually about the ASEAN Energy Outlook series, one of which that the eight editions of it has been launched recently, and we look forward for today's event as well. So the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8 webinar actually takes the title of the technical explorations of ASEAN energy supply and demand. And since its inception, ACE has been become one of the flagship publications. AEO has been a flagship publications of ACE and has become one of the most important documents to support ASEAN energy policy and planning. AEO complements and supplements the PIPE, providing an overview of the current energy landscape and exploring pathways of the achievement of regional and national energy targets and beyond. And continuing the previous efforts through the 7th edition, ACE launched the 8th edition this year and launched them back-to-back with the 42nd ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting in Vientiane, Laos PDR. And AEO8 is supported by various partners, to name a few: Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry or METI of Japan, ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project or ACCEP, Energy Foundation China or EFC, USID under the Smart Power Programs, and then Australian Government Partnership for Infrastructures or POI4I initiative through the Australia ASEAN Energy Cooperation Program, in which this webinar is supported by P4I and the Australian government. So today we are going to have a scene setting presentation, and then we are going to also have a main session as well. So without further ado, can you go next? I would like to invite our very own acting of Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Energy, Mr. Benny Suryadi, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Mr. Benny, the time is yours. Hello, Mr. Benny. You are still muted.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Amira. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speaker, guests, and also esteemed participant in this webinar. Good afternoon and warm welcome for all of us. It's an honor for me to welcome everyone to the 8th ASEAN Energy Outlook webinar, a technical exploration of the ASEAN energy supply and demand. It's a great pleasure to have with us panelists from the different institutions who will share their expertise and insight while disseminating the region's energy sector to cultivate how we can achieve a transition in which supply meets the demand effectively as the region embarks on its journey toward a more sustainable future. The 8th ASEAN Energy Outlook is a flagship publication by the ASEAN Centre for Energy. It's endorsed at the 42nd ASEAN Minister on Energy meeting in Vientiane, Laos PDR last September. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN region has undergone a transformation in its energy landscape, shifting from the agriculture-based economy. The region is now led by the service sector as the highest contributor to the GDP, followed by the industrial sector. Additionally, ASEAN is projected to experience a 1.5 times growth in its urban population by 2050. In light of this development, we, the region, must prepare for an ever-increasing demand for energy. While the fossil fuels remain a critical player in the ASEAN energy sector, the region is committed to transitioning into a cleaner ecosystem, one of which through the low-hanging fruits of the enhancing energy-saving measure. Efforts toward energy transition are not only directed at the decarbonization, but also at how it can reduce costs through collaboration across ASEAN region. Collaboration is a collaboration effort are key enabler to accelerate the energy in the transition. Yet, our countries are still confined in their own national policy. So under the Laos 2024, the ASEAN Chairmanship, the theme for the ASEAN connectivity and resilience is emphasized, noting the importance of the building a robust energy infrastructures to ensure a resilient and secure energy supply, especially amid the significant climate change risks posing countries across the ASEAN region. As the only official energy outlook in the region, the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8's role cannot be overlooked and is very critical for the decision maker in transforming the energy sector, both in the country scale and regional scale. The ASEAN Energy Outlook 8 provide a comprehensive assessment of the energy sector with the projection from the various scenarios that incorporate national policies, constraint, and optimization in the power sectors. So, in today's discussion, is a continuation from the launch of the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8 at the ASEAN Energy Business Forum, also in the sideline of 42nd ASEAN Minister in Vientiane Lao PDL last September, with focused discourse around the supply and demand side finding in the publication. So through the panel discussion, I hope that we can engage in an enriched discussion and gain new perspective on the role of the stakeholders, enabling policy that supply and demand side, and ways to attract investment in the clean energy transition in the region. While there is still much to address and uncertainties lies ahead, I'm hopeful that through collaborative effort, the region can achieve a just and inclusive energy transition for all. Before I end, allow me to convey my highest appreciation again to all the partners through the Australian government, through the Partnership for Infrastructure, for their support and also jointly co-hosting today's webinar, to the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, including through the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, to the government of Norway through the ASEAN Climate Change of Energy Projects, the United States Agency for International Development, Southeast Asia Smart Power Program, and last but not least, the Energy Foundation of China. I hope everyone's to have a very fruitful discussion today. And let me end by extend my gratitude to our team, to all of the working group members and all the partners, and especially for all the participants for joining with us this afternoon. Thank you again and look forward to the exciting discussion that will follow. Thank you. Back to Amira.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benny. Now, before we kind of like start the whole event, I would like to invite all the speakers, including Mr. Benny, to turn on their cameras as we are going to take pictures of all speakers today. All right, let's wait for 5 seconds so everyone have a. All right, so on my mark, I would like to ask my colleagues to take pictures in 3, 2, 1. Can we have one more time? Everyone a big smile in 3. Right. For a second, can I ask Ms. Key, could you please turn down the slides so that we can actually take all the pictures? Nice, perfect. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, everyone smile. Can I check if my team already okay for a picture? All right. Thank you so much for everyone, and I'm looking forward as well for a discussion. Thank you, Mr. Benny. All right. The next one would be as interesting as well before we start the whole thing going on is a quiz time. So if you haven't actually familiar with Menti, you can just go to www.menti.com and slash the code that we have, or maybe just open up your phone and then go to the camera and then scan the QR code, because we are going to play a little bit of quiz before we start the session. And just to kind of like, share and try to understand whether you have known some of several informations that we are going to pose. So, and my colleagues as well has sent it to the chat box. So feel free to um, all right. Yes. Thank you so much for that. So just go to www.menti.com and then enter the code 13220989 or just use the QR code on your phone. I'm going to check how much of people have joined now. Okay. All right. So we have a lot of people already joined in Mentees, and we are going to start some of the questions first. Next slide, please. So I'm going to pose you 4 questions overall, and we are going to wait for, all right, so 60 players already joined. There are close to 200 that are joining here today. So I'm looking forward if we can have more players ready to join this session as well. All right, let's wait a couple of seconds before we start. Just to let you know that this Mentee link will be used throughout the session. There will be a couple of quiz afterwards, and then there are also some information and engagement as well through this link. So please do remember and copy and paste this one as well. If not, you can ask our ICT team so that we can actually support you on providing the link as well. All right, we've wait a minute for it. Okay, last 10 seconds. All right, I think we are ready. So the first question, it's pretty simple, and I think if you haven't actually seen the AEO report, probably you might find it difficult, but don't worry, there is no right or wrong. We just wanted to know what is your informations about it. Basically, we have 4 scenarios, and these 4 scenarios, 2 of them are adopted from the previous edition, which is the AEO7, which is the baseline scenarios, or BAS, and then ASEAN member states target scenarios, or ATS. And now we can see the remaining of the 2 as the question. Next slide, please. So the first question is, what are the 2 newest scenarios that are featured in the AEO8? There are 4 options that I've put there. There is a sustainable development goal scenario and net zero emission scenario, or regional aspiration scenario and carbon neutrality scenario, or third, least cost optimization scenario and net zero emission scenario, or transforming energy scenario and carbon neutrality scenarios. Looking forward, hopefully everyone get it right. 2, 1, okay. Wow, everyone still think that number 1 is actually true. No worry, this public webinar actually helps you to understand that our scenarios, the remaining 2 scenarios, is actually regional aspiration scenario, or RAS, and carbon neutrality scenarios. So I'm looking forward for this. Maybe in the next webinar, you would actually, get better understanding, and we can get more people to answer correctly. Next one, please. So the second question is actually about target achievement. So in ASEAN, under the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Corporations, or APAEC, which is a regional energy blueprint, there are three regional targets that were set by 2025. The first one is renewable energy targets in TPS, or total primary energy supply, by 23%. The second target is the renewable energy in installed power capacity that is set at 35%. And last but not least is the energy intensity reduction target that are set in 32%. So out of these three, the question is, which regional targets that will be achieved by 2025 based on the predictions of the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8? Please remember that is under the ASEAN member states target scenario, or ATS scenarios. Which one? Whether it's the first one, the second one, third one, or even none at all, or maybe all of them will be achieved by next year. 5 seconds left. I hope everyone get it right. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, majority of people choose the right one, yes. So renewable energy target in installed capacity that was set in 35% actually have a way more likeliness to actually be achieved. Meanwhile, but I'm happy that I see some of very optimist participants that says that all of them will be achieved by next year. No worry, we hope that by having the AEO8, we can actually support the achievement of this by fine-tuning some of the policies that are set in the region or the national. Perfect. Next one, please. In the third questions, we are going to explore about the demand sides sectors, because sectoral analysis actually shows that all end-use sectors see an increase in energy consumption under the scenarios because it's driven by the population and economic growth. So the question is, which sectors on the demand side contribute the most energy consumptions? We are talking about Southeast Asia case, okay? So there are four options. There are commercial and international transport, industry and commercial, transportation and industries, and last but not least is the international transport and electricity. Which one that you would think suitable and correct for this question? 5 seconds. All right. Perfect. Majority of people choose the transportation and industries. That's true because in the AEO8 and also in the AEO7, it's consistent that transportation and industry sectors actually contribute the most energy as a most energy consumption sectors. And having a really effective policy making would definitely focusing on transportation industry would definitely bring a significant impact to the trends in the region as well. And last but not least, we are going to the last question, which is about new types of technologies that are being explored in the AEO8. So the scenario addition to the AEO8, as previously known, the RIS and the CNS actually provides insights into a least cost optimization in power sectors and while keeping the regional targets to be as a standard and using the accelerated AMS or ATS policies. And based on our findings, in RAS scenarios, there are two types of technologies that are emerged along with the power capacity expansion in ASEAN. So the last question is about what are the two types of new technology that are projected to be used by ASEAN? There are four options. The first one is the biomass co-firing and CCUS. CCUS stands for carbon capture and utilization storage, and then for hydrogen and nuclear for the second, nuclear and batteries, and last but not least is the prime hydro storage and hydrogen. Okay. 5 seconds. Wow. Now it's shocking. Actually, it's also something that we can actually discuss as well during the panel session and Q&A. The answers is nuclear and battery, but it's not really um, what is it? Very much focused on that note as well. In the other scenarios, there are also another explorations of the utilizations of hydrogen, CCUS, pumped hydro storage. So looking forward for these findings that are very interesting to know about your understanding about the AEO8, to be, enlightened again later on by my colleague, Ms. Rika Safrina, during the scene setting presentation. And that's all for the QA sessions. And before we begin, I would like to just, draw your attentions for a couple of minutes for launch video screening of the AEO8. But before that, if you haven't actually see or read the report, please just go to the ASEANenergy.org/the 8th ASEAN Energy Outlook, or just go to ASEANenergy.org/the AEO8. So you can see that we have the report ready, the executive summary ready, as well as the video as well. May I ask for assistance for the video screening, please? All right, it will coming soon. So I would like to kindly ask again for your attentions for the just 3 minutes introductions of the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8th edition. All right, seems like there is a technical issues on the videos, and we'll come back to screen share that of the videos maybe after the scene setting presentation. So allow me to just move on to the next agenda, which is the scene setting presentations by Ms. Rika Safrina, the team leader of the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8 and the senior analyst of Energy Modeling and Policy Planning Department. She is actually graduating from the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom, and I'm looking forward for the findings and results, modeling frameworks of the AEO8 itself through her presentations titled Navigating Energy Transition in ASEAN. Without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Rika. The screen is yours, Ms. Rika.
Thank you very much, Amira, for your introduction. Allow me to share my screen. All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon from Jakarta, Indonesia. It is great to see many colleagues and participants joining this first AEO8 webinar. There will be a group of experts who will share their insights with us. Thank you so much. So allow me to present to you some of the key findings and highlights of the 8th ASEAN Energy Outlook. A little bit of a background. AEO complements the APAEC and its 7 program areas to support the creation of pathways for achieving the regional targets. I think Amira before already shared to you the list of APAEC targets in this phase of APAEC until 2025. And I'm interested to also to see the results of the quiz just now. So all of these targets are by 2025, and AEO8 is timely crucial since the region now is preparing for the next cycle of APAEC post 2025. So references for new targets and a set of action plans would be provided by AEO8 and its analysis as one of the references. So AEO8 utilizes the data of as of 2022 as the base year with the projection up to 2050. The team worked very hard to collect data, improve modeling quality and capabilities, and develop new scenarios. AEO8 starts with baseline scenario, which is based on the historical trends without any policy intervention. The second scenario, called ATS, or National Target Scenario, which implements national official policies, especially on power development plans, renewable energy, and energy efficiency. The third scenario, called Regional Aspiration Scenario, or RAS, using least cost optimization in power sector while keeping the 2025 APAEC targets, and explores the accelerated ASEAN member states policies in the spirit of regional cooperation. Last but not least, carbon neutrality scenario. It applies decarbonization efforts using optimization of net zero technologies while keeping the APAEC targets. The scenario is developed in the spirit of national net zero targets and carbon neutrality targets of each ASEAN member state, and also ASEAN strategies for carbon neutrality. While ensuring its ASEAN voice, the AEO8 received support from several partners, including METI Japan, Norwegian government through Accept 2 project, Energy Foundation China, the USA through SPP Smart Power Program, Australian government through Partnership for Infrastructures, and many other technical partners. This is the list of summary of each scenario and the various key assumptions applied, which could explain more detail on the differences on each scenario. For example, in the baseline, there is no optimization applied, and keeping the growth rate only based on the historical data for energy efficiency, renewable energy, and power generation capacity, and also energy targets in NDCs. Meanwhile, for ATS, there is no optimization as well, same like this line, but it follows the national energy policies and targets in terms of efficiency, renewable energy, power capacity, and energy-related measures in NDCs. The other two scenarios apply least cost optimization. Building upon ATS, RAS uses existing APAEC targets and considers accelerated national policies and targets. And meanwhile, CNS building upon RAS to explore more ambitious and net zero technologies to achieve each ASEAN member states carbon neutrality or net zero pledges. So, so this is results in the demand side. ASEAN end-use consumption is still dominated by industry and transport sectors, as mentioned before, during the quiz time, with coal and oil products dominating respectively. Overall, the final energy demand is expected to grow about 2.6 times from 2022 to 2050. It's never too much to highlight the importance of energy efficiency. Energy transition in the demand sector starts by optimizing efficient appliances and also apply fuel economy in transport. Around 1/3 of energy can be saved by 2050 with the strong implementation of AMS targets and policies. Complementing this is the fuel shifting to cleaner energy sources such as electricity, to bioenergy and hydrogen. Highlighting several selected sectors, fuel shift to electric vehicle in road transport is dominated by buses, highlighting the importance of public sector in energy transition. Addressing both energy security and sustainability, a significant phase out of traditional biomass, including wood, charcoal, and LPG, is expected by 2050 and will be replaced by electricity. In the CNS, we are exploring emerging technologies in ASEAN towards net zero future. Among others, we foresee more role in hydrogen in transport sector. One of the key analyses and recommendations from AEO8 is on tracking the regional APAIC targets. Reflecting the current APAIC targets under the ATS, the region will have 39.6% of RE share in installed power capacity, which is overachieved the 35% RE targets, APAIC targets. And then we also projected that about 31% of energy intensity reduction will be happen by 2025, which is quite close to 32% targets. By 2030, it will have 23.5% of renewable energy in TPS. Meanwhile, the RE in installed capacity could reach 44% and EI reduction could reach 40% by 2030. These are for consideration of new APAIC targets. Electricity generation is reduced from baseline to ATS due to the energy efficiency efforts, but increases across the remaining scenarios. Such phenomena can be attributed to the increase in electrification policies and market shift towards renewable energy sources under more ambitious scenarios. In exploring pathways toward net zero future, clean energy solutions, including nuclear, lead the way of transition towards innovative solutions or alternative energy for long-term energy security and sustainability by 2050. Energy, as you know, is multi-sectoral issues. So it relates with economy, so its impact to economic activity, including jobs creation. Specific on renewable energy, around 6 million jobs are estimated to be created in 2040, between 2040 and 2050 period under our CNS scenario. But on the other hand, we also noted about 3.2 million job losses due to the fossil fuel plants decommissioning. So this highlights the needs of just and inclusive energy transition. Another secondary analysis that we explore is the production cost. A greener electricity production options requires larger investment costs. But when we consider the externality costs associated with the emissions, with the fossil fuels, the baseline scenario turns out to be very costly. In line with the externality costs, the GHG emissions in baseline scenario reach about 5,000 million tons CO2 equivalent in 2050. Decarbonization efforts would cut this by 46% in ATS and further decrease by 23% in RAS. CNS still has some carbon budget, noting the potential of carbon sink, direct air capture, and net zero targets that beyond 2050 in some ASEAN member states. That's why you can see here that even though it's a carbon neutrality scenario, but emissions is not really zero, but there is still some emissions by 2050. We also highlighted the need for integrated land use policies that balance the renewable energy expansions with the environmental sustainability. Our RAS analysis shows that solar and wind could require 5 million hectares by 2050, mostly in Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines. The recommendations, these three key strategies were observed and proposed by ASEAN Energy Outlook 8. On the demand side, maximizing energy efficiency should be the first fuel. Our analysis clearly show the indispensability of energy efficiency measures. There are rooms for improvement. There are massive rooms for improvement, and we encourage design and implementation of stronger standards, advancement of investment on energy efficiency technologies, more diversification to low carbon alternatives, and emerging technologies such as smart demand responses as key intersectoral strategy. Meanwhile, on the supply side, ensuring energy diversification and security is the key. optimizing RE should focus on diversification of locally available resources in the region, supported by modernization of electrical grids. In securing energy transition, natural gas needs to be considered, and community inclusivity must be enhanced, including to improve energy access. Financing strategies such as carbon pricing must also be designed to avoid the negative impact of it. Elevating those strategies is regional cooperation by promoting multi-stakeholder collaborations. Interconnectivity is the key lever in synergizing and enhancing the impact of national strategies, not only in infrastructure such as grid and ASEAN power grid and gas pipeline. The region needs to coordinate the policy, national supports, and multi-stakeholder engagement to maximize the impacts. All of these strategies should become key components in the regional energy cooperation agenda, especially through the APAC, through the next cycle of APAC post-2025. You can read more detailed analysis in the report, which can be downloaded for free from ACE website. You can scan the barcode here or download from this link, access this link. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really looking forward to the fruitful discussion ahead with our esteemed panelists. Back to you, Amira.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rika, for a very concise and very informative presentation. And I think it kind of like enlightening all of the informations that we have as well throughout. Maybe in the earlier during the quiz, people are wondering what it is and what is that. And now it seems like it's getting clearer. Now, we are going to have our main sessions of the day, of the panel sessions. But just to check if the introductions of videos is ready to be shown now before the panel session. Can I check with my colleagues to show the video?
In 2022, ASEAN's population stood at 8.7% of the world's population, and the region saw a 15.2% increase in energy demand from 2021. The ASEAN Centre for Energy, or ACE, represents a central role in the ASEAN energy sector while supporting regional sustainable development and economic growth. ACE established the ASEAN Energy Outlook as the key resource for regional energy policy and planning, providing energy data, analysis, and projections. From ASEAN, by ASEAN, and to ASEAN, the ASEAN Energy Outlook is developed in close partnerships with all ASEAN member states. In 2024, ACE introduces the 8th edition of the ASEAN Energy Outlook, or AEO8, a vital guide for regional energy policy and planning, assessing current and future trends. AEO8 gears up, guides, and monitors the final year of the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, or APAEC, which outlines clear pathways and 7 program areas to achieve regional energy targets. The AEO8 presents 4 scenarios with a different approach, aiming for a deeper analysis from technical perspectives. The baseline scenario is a projection based on the historical data and current conditions of each ASEAN member state. The ATS explores the impact of national policy and measures, while the RAS incorporates the 2025 APAEC targets and scale-up. The CNS, on the other hand, follows the decarbonization efforts aligned with ASEAN strategies for carbon neutrality. Backed by data and insights, AEO8 is your roadmap in advancing energy security, accessibility, affordability, and sustainability in the region. It provides key recommendations on policies, measures, and technologies in order to achieve the APAEC targets. Some of the key findings from AEO8 include: in the baseline scenario, ASEAN's energy demand is set to grow 2.6 times by 2050, dominated by industry and transport, with coal and oil leading consumption. In the CNS, Emerging technologies such as hydrogen and sustainable aviation fuel are projected to be integrated into ASEAN's energy mix by 2023 and 2025, especially in the transport sector. Reflecting the current APAEC targets, under the ATS, the region will have 23.5% of renewable energy in the total primary energy supply and 39.6% of renewable energy share in installed power capacity, surpassing the 2025 target. ASEAN will also reach 31% of energy intensity reduction by 2025, close to the target by 2030. Meanwhile, renewable energy in installed capacity could reach 44.1%, and energy intensity reduction could reach 40.2%. These are in consideration of new APAEC targets. According to the CNS, 6 million new jobs will be created in renewable energy from 2040 to 2050. But 3.2 million job losses are also predicted from fossil fuel plant decommissioning. This underscores the importance of workforce transitions through retraining programs and support. AEO8 serves as a guiding compass and a catalyst for the formulation of visionary regional targets. It will drive strategic energy policy development for the APAEC 2026 to 2030 and for the coming transformative decade. To learn more about the ASEAN Energy Outlook series, please visit go.aseanenergy.org/AEO8 or scan the QR code here.
All right, that's the introductions videos of the ASEAN Energy Outlook, and actually it's a great start. I think some of the key message in the videos kind of like, will be relevant throughout the main panel sessions that we are going to have today with 4 main panelists, and then will be moderated by Mr. Namli as an energy lead at the Partnership for Infrastructures, or P4I program as part of the Australian government's flagship infrastructures program in Southeast Asia. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Nam for facilitating this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Amira, and good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be your moderator for this upcoming panel session. So for the next 1 hour and 10 minutes, we will have the opportunity to hear from 4 leading voices at the forefront of ASEAN's energy transitions on their views about some of the opportunities, challenges, and potential solutions outlined in AEO8. There will also be an opportunity to ask questions to our speakers and for you as the audience to have your say on some of these important issues. So as Amira has mentioned, we will be using Menti throughout this panel session as a way to get your questions and feedback. So please keep that handy, and please be aware that you can ask questions and submit them for our panelists to respond to later at any time during this session. So it is with excitement that I can now introduce the speakers for this session, which I will do all together. So firstly, we have Mr. Michael Patalio, who is the lead modeler in the Energy Modelling and Policy Planning Department at the ASEAN Centre for Energy. So in particular, led the modelling for the published AEO8. Michael has expertise in developing regional energy system models under various scenarios, plus electricity market forecasting, and a whole wealth of experience in the energy and mining sectors across ASEAN. Second, we have Mr. Mrutyunjaya Nanda from Asia Clean Energy Partners, otherwise known as MJ. He leads the technology and markets portfolio at Asia Clean Energy Partners. MJ is a seasoned expert in clean energy in the Asia Pacific region, bringing specific expertise in solar PV, as well as a broad experience across the energy technology landscape. And in the recent AEO8, MJ helped develop the Smart Demand Response chapter. Third, we have Dr. Emmy Gui, the Energy Transition Program Lead at Australia's Monash Energy Institute. She has been a long contributor to the region's energy transition, including with ACE, with a wealth of experience that is too long to go through now. But in particular, her work at Monash Energy Institute focuses on system-level transformative solutions and knowledge collaboration to strengthen links between energy and climate, such as in planning for net zero energy systems, climate resilient infrastructure, energy system connectivity, and decentralized energy systems. In AEO8, Dr. Emi helped develop the variable renewable energy chapter. And finally, we have Mr. Kyohei Yoshinaga, a consultant at the Centre for Policy and the Economy of the Mitsubishi Research Institute. In his role, Kyohei specializes in analyzing domestic and international electricity markets, policy formulation, scenario analysis to support the development of sustainable energy policies across ASEAN and globally. And in AEO8, Kyohei helped develop the carbon pricing chapter. So please join me in welcoming our esteemed panel. There is a lot to cover in a short amount of time, so a reminder to our speakers that they will keep their responses concise, and any questions that you as the audience submit, we will try to get all of them to all of them, but naturally we may run out of time. So if this happens, we'll take questions on notice and our speakers and the ACE team can respond after the webinar. So without further ado, to start us off, the first question I'd like to pose to you, Michael. So the AEO8 modelling exercises serve as useful tools for evaluating the potential effects of policies. We've already heard a bit about the highlights and some of the new scenarios. So as the lead modeler, can you tell us a bit about the improved approaches to modelling in AEO8, as well as some of the primary assumptions made in the baseline scenario? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nam, for the introduction, and thank you for everyone for joining us here for our first webinar for the Outlook 8. To be concise, the approaches that we have for the improvements from previous Outlook to the new Outlook is we kept in mind that the pike will end by 2025, and we need something to lead us or like guide us to the next few years for the pike. So we set this 2 additional scenario as a way to measure what is the level of the region in terms of its targets and in terms of its national plans, that if you lump it as a region, will it be enough to suffice us to reach the targets that we set before? So for some of the improvements in the model, I think the most critical one is improvement in the transport sector. We try to be more detailed on how we approach the disaggregation for the transport sector, because we know this one will be a key sector for the future, especially if countries have plans for carbon neutrality or net zero, because we have this integration of the new types of fuel like hydrogen. We have more EVs being deployed for each countries. Then as a whole, it's not just the transport that try to integrate or have this new technologies to penetrate its demand for industry as well. And for residential, we also have smart metering entering for some of the countries that will try to maybe reduce consumption for each of the households. Then we also take into more detail what is the status of reserve and resources for each countries. We try to gather the most updated data for each country, because it will be a significant focus for each country to what will be the level of, let's say, oil or nat gas or coal for each country. That if we have these new types of technology, will it be extended for how many years? Because we know that it's not easy to transition to cleaner energy technologies if we are too dependent, or we are a developing country depending on this type of fuel. Then we also focus on new types of power plants like co-firing, from coal to biomass to ammonia. Then we have this nat gas to hydrogen for some countries, and also the at least two at the moment in ASEAN is using nuclear as a target to be included in their lineup by the mid-2030s. That's for the approach improvement, and for the baseline, I think we have a World Bank for the population and forecast. Then for the GDP, it's from the ADB and APERC, and all the submitted data from each of the AMS as a base for our baseline and as our main data until 2022 for our projections. So that's all for our baseline assumptions as well.
Great, thank you, Michael. It's really clear that the scenario analysis identify a new and ever-increasing range of possible technologies and options, something that we can understand a bit more from you, Emmy. The report identified the need for plug-and-play solutions on battery energy storage systems and pumped hydro energy storage to help integrate variable renewable energy. Can you tell us a bit more about the roles that storage technologies can play in ASEAN's electricity systems?
Thanks, Nan. Very exciting to be here and very honored to have contributed to the dispatchability of renewable energies thematic chapter in the AEO report. In this chapter, we mainly discussed three key technology enablers to enhance the grid dispatchability and also flexibility, such as energy storage, digitalization, and distributed energy resources. As you just mentioned, energy storage is absolutely a critical component of a clean energy system. So the function of energy storage is really to store excess renewable energy during periods of high production and release the energy when needed later on. Of course, there are also applications through energy price arbitrage, which is to store energy when the energy prices are low and release energy when the prices is high. Given quite a few audience actually got the last quiz wrong, I just quickly explain. So pumped hydro storage provides longer duration power, normally have a bigger capacity than battery storage, but normally are quite site dependent. So it's you need to find suitable sites to deploy pumped hydro storage, while battery storage can provide fast response and can be installed very easily pretty much anywhere at distribution network level, at transmission network level, and also sometimes at a household level as well. So that's why we call it a plug-and-play solution. It's also due to its modularity, flexible design, and installation features. So there are many services that energy storage can provide in electricity systems and power networks. So firstly, to enable bulk energy shifting, we just mentioned to store excess energy for later use when it's needed. This also helps to substitute sometimes the traditional diesel plants and also gas peaking plants, really to reduce the emission intensity of electricity generation. Secondly, energy storage is able to provide network support and a range of grid emergency and ancillary services. For example, frequency regulation, voltage control, black start service. These services really can help to improve power system reliability, flexibility, and help to reduce network congestions therefore reduce the need for new infrastructure investments in power grid or new generation capacities. Of course, I just mentioned the fast response features of energy storage, especially battery storage. This is perfect for providing balancing solutions to really counter the variability and intermittency of the renewable energies in solar, wind, seasonal hydro. When co-located or optimized together with the variable or season generations, it also can help to reduce the renewable energy curtailment and improve the utilization of these renewable energy assets, therefore increase the economics and the bankability of the project. I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Remy. Lots of really important points about the dispatchability and flexibility of supply. An equally important part of the solution and the AEO8 modelling was managing the demand side. And that's a question for you, MJ. Can you tell us about the role of smart demand response and why it is important in modern energy systems?
Thanks, Nam. And before I get into that, I need to thank the full team of ASEAN Centre for Energy and P4I for inviting me to this first of a kind webinar while we talk about in depth of the ASEAN Energy Outlook. So moving into the question, moving a bit upstream on just giving you a perspective of what demand response is. So as its name suggests, it involves modulation of a consumer's energy behavior. It could be an incentive-based or it could be initiated by the utilities. And when it comes to smart demand response, we are talking about the use of demand response techniques or load management techniques in the modern energy systems. And I would just like to reiterate everything you heard about Amy mentioning about grid stability, grid flexibility, cost efficiencies, congestion management, everything, all the benefits that comes with battery energy storage systems. I can imagine it's a demand response program kind of contributing to them maybe equally, if not more, easily and efficiently as battery energy storage systems. So at the outset, I can easily tell you that the easiest way to advocate for smart demand response in modern grid systems is the stability and the flexibility that it brings to the grid for the utilities, actually. So it gives the utilities and all the countries more options to add more renewables to their systems. So it's actually directly helping them decarbonize their energy systems or helping them move closer to their NDCs. In terms of, it also brings a lot of cost effectiveness. So by shifting the consumption pattern of the customers, so we are reducing the peak load. Indirectly, we are avoiding, as Amy mentioned, building a dirty peaking power plant, gas-fired peaking power plant, or utilities are avoiding building of or construction of new transmission lines as well. So another interesting aspect of demand response is the integration of EVs. So EVs are coming, and but then there's a huge application of EVs in terms of when it comes to demand response. So as an EV user, I would be incentivized to modulate my EV charging behavior. So in such, I'm helping the grid in terms of congestion management, and it also helping me earn some money. And by doing what? By just channeling or modulating the hours when I consume when my electric vehicle consumes electricity. And the other aspect of electric vehicles is the application of V2G techniques. So as an electric owner, who owns a mobile battery, I would say, countries are coming up with business models and mechanisms how to use these electric vehicles for demand response programs. So a lot to discuss here, but I think I have a limited time, so happy to discuss further on this. Thanks, Nam.
Thank you, MJ. Yes, you are correct. There are plenty more opportunities to unpack a lot of this, including with some questions that have already started to filter through from the audience. So I really appreciate that. If I could just quickly take the opportunity to remind people to use the Menti app to submit your questions, that would be useful. So finally, back to the questions for the speakers. One of the other key aspects that AEO8 focused on was market-based solutions. So a question for you, Kia-Hai. Given the importance of these market-based solutions, such as carbon pricing, can you tell us about ASEAN's progress in developing carbon markets and why these are central to ASEAN's strategy to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050?
Okay, thank you, Nam. And I'm very pleased to be able to join such a wonderful webinar today. And okay, first, progress of carbon market. In ASEAN, carbon markets are still in the early stage compared with those in the European Union and North America. The system is less developed and the market liquidity remains limited. However, discussions are steadily progressing. For example, Singapore took a significant step in 2019 by introducing a carbon tax, which serves as a milestone for ASEAN in the field. And following this, Indonesia launched an emission trading system, ETS, in February 2023, and focusing on coal-fired power plants in the trial phase. This system is expected to expand and strengthen after 2025. Other ASEAN member states are also exploring various carbon pricing mechanisms, such as carbon credits and voluntary carbon credit trading markets. So these initiatives are aimed at supporting ASEAN's commitment to the Paris Agreement and promoting a more structured approach to carbon reduction with maintaining economic growth. So why it's important? Carbon market will likely become one of the key mechanisms to help ASEAN achieve carbon neutrality as energy demand is expected to grow in the region. So this system offers a flexible market-based approach that allows each country and sector to transition efficiently toward taking into account their specific circumstances. For ASEAN, balancing economic growth and environmental goals is critical. So carbon markets plays an essentially important role. So additionally, by allowing companies to offset emissions through market transaction, carbon markets encourage investment in low carbon technologies. This fosters managed phase out from fossil fuel and helps reduce the risk of economic disruption. So ASEAN member states can achieve emission reduction through carbon markets by working together and sharing best practice across the region. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a really, really great start from all of you on the panel to help us understand what some of the opportunities are and what could be possible. So to flip it and dig into some of the challenges and the barriers, I want to direct this question to you, Dr. Remy. In relation to storage technologies, what do you see are the key barriers to the wider deployment in ASEAN?
Yeah, we just talked about the important role that energy storage can play in ASEAN energy transition to strengthen the grid flexibility, dispatchability, of course, together with the many other type of technologies, demand response as well. But why the deployment of the technology really face still many challenges, for example, financial investment challenges, technical requirement, operational challenges, grid connection challenges, regulatory challenges in adequate policy support, market design, and of course, there are innovation aspects and overcoming critical mineral supply chain constraint as well. So all these are quite significant barriers. And in the AEO8 report, we dived into particularly one of the most distinct challenges at present, which is to really develop appropriate business models and deployment mechanism. So both battery storage and pumped hydro storage have quite high upfront capital cost. This has really limited their deployment at a larger scale and a faster pace to really complement or integrate more variable renewable energy projects and provide grid support. While the cost for the battery storage, for example, has come down quite significantly in recent years, but the cost of it, I think, is around still 300 400 kilowatt hours US dollars for 1 megawatt, so make it quite less competitive compared to many other technologies, for example, demand response. So there is also lack of revenue streams due to inadequate market pricing, and of course there is very low renewable energy penetration at the moment in ASEAN countries, in many ASEAN countries. So in the report, we specifically focus on the applications of battery energy storage, which really determines the revenue streams and discuss their business models and procurement strategies. This really help developers and system planners to further understand the cost-benefit ratio of battery storage, how to realize the full potential and the longer-term gains for their development. Of course, audience can look into the report for the further details. I also talk about the operational challenges. These are quite relatively new technology in the ASEAN market and not quite well understood or operationalized. So all optimization of the storage really requires very high level of technical and operational capacity, expertise for energy system operators, and also requires strong forecasting capability of variable renewable generations. All these need to be further strengthened in many ASEAN countries. And technical knowledge and capacity building in grid management for energy storage is also needed. So a number of the revenue streams to provide network support and ancillary services. We also need a very well designed operated electricity market to realize. So this will demand that energy storage technologies, knowledge, and learnings to be rapidly disseminated across countries, across the region. I also mentioned the innovation and the supply chain challenges. Of course, the production of battery storage is highly dependent on mineral resources. New battery technologies that are more efficient, that can reduce and eliminate the use of critical minerals. And also battery recycling technologies will be essential to support future demand for battery storage in future carbon neutral energy systems. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Emmy, for the comprehensive response. I wanted to pose a similar question to you, MJ, in relation to smart demand response, what you shared earlier. What do you see as the main technical and regulatory barriers hindering the large-scale adoption of smart demand response in ASEAN?
Thanks, Sam. So I just want to remind anyone who is working in this energy transition sector knows that energy efficiency is the lowest hanging fruit out there. And Park Denny even started his remark today with that statement. And it's baffling that considering it's such a low-hanging fruit, why demand response, which is an intricate part of energy efficiency, has not taken off in this region. And just to bring everyone's attention to the ASEAN Energy Outlook, in the subchapter that we have co-authored there, you can find the different stages in which all these ASEAN countries are when it comes to implementing a demand response program. And you see that there are barely a few handful of countries who have actually done anything when it comes to implementing a commercial scale or a full-scale demand response program. So answering your question, barriers, yes, technical, quite a lot. And the obvious one would be the lack of AMI or advanced metering infrastructures, because utilities, when it comes to implementing a demand response program, needs to kind of monitor the consumer's behavior or need to know the load patterns, load behaviors of consumers. And without the easy flow of data between the utilities or the control center and the customers, it's really difficult to implement a demand response program. And then I would say it's related to this technology is the readiness of the grids. So many of the ASEAN countries are still struggling with, and some, not many, but like some of them are energy access. Some of them are actually focused on improving the energy infrastructure in general. So demand response is something that comes afterwards for them. And also the lack of limited availability or interoperable technologies like open ADR technologies that utilities in West or other developed countries are using to implement programs. The utilities do not have the technical know-how in this region. And another important thing that comes to my mind is when it comes to operating an effective demand response program, as a utility, you would handle a huge amount of data. And most of this data are customer-centric data. So in ASEAN, I'm not sure if there is a proper framework for utilities of how to handle those kind of information. Because a lot of information is personal information, and a lot of issues could be faced regarding that. When it comes to regulatory challenges, I think these are the mainstay of all the issues, I would say. And first of all, the ASEAN electricity markets in the countries are actually not barring Philippines and Singapore. Most of them are non-liberalized. So it's not easy to kind of develop a full-scale demand response program, because what would happen eventually is that a lot of responsibility would fall to the utilities. And apart from, which is a day-to-day activity of distributing power to their customers, there would a lot of activities, including aggregation, which should be actually done by third-party operators, falls into their purview. And as a utility, this becomes an additional burden to you, actually. And also, another important thing is the customer awareness. I am pretty much sure that a lot of factories, a lot of industries, even the residential customers, factory owners are barely aware of anything called demand response. So this would kind of sound to them like turning off their loads or lights for a certain time of the day, but that's not the case. So there needs to be a proper messaging to the customer base that, okay, this is something you are helping the grid with the congestion management or anything or flexibility, but also it's a revenue stream for you. So there's a lack of proper business model that needs to be developed by the utilities so that it kind of comes out as an incentive to the customer base. So these are a few high-level things that were probably, when addressed, could initiate or kickstart the process of demand response. And some countries have actually done a few programs successfully, one of them being Thailand, which recently concluded a 50 megawatt pilot scale program in Thailand. And Thailand has huge ambitions of scaling it up by 2037 when they want to curtail their peak load by 3,000 megawatts by 2037 using demand response programs. So probably Singapore also is planning to implement a lot of residential demand response programs, which would be probably much more difficult. But then Singapore probably is in one of the best positions to implement, considering its size and the way the market is structured in Singapore. It's one of the best place to kind of lead the way in ASEAN, actually, when it comes to a demand response program. Thanks, Sam. Over to you.
Thank you, and really interesting insights and a lot of common threads there between you and Emmy, your responses around the barriers. So given these barriers and challenges, Michael, from your analysis and modelling perspective, in relation to AEO8, how should readers consider uncertainties and external risks in reviewing the analysis undertaken in the report?
Thank you again, ma'am. Continuing what was discussed by MJ and Ms. Emmy, I think it should always start with each region, each country, that what will be the policies to be the basis for this new technologies, especially with the demand for EVs, for utility scale, and even for transport. So if one or two at least countries in the ASEAN try to start this will start knowledge sharing for everyone. In the region, it is known that at least one country will have this type of technology. At least they will lead the development of how each of the countries that also wants to adopt these types of technology will try to have a capacity building workshop, and from there we can start developing more and the whole region will have these types of conversation of what should be done and what should be avoided because of experience from this technologies. So for uncertainties and external risk also, we should always keep in mind that each of these countries have different levels of energy access from electrification rate. Some are 100% already electrified, some are not. Clean cooking as well, for most of the region is not yet 100% clean, so some still uses traditional biomass. So looking at the region as a whole should be the main way of analyzing the result, as if you try to see it as why is the level of renewable share for the demand is too low, you can't just point it to a region that some countries should step it up, because and we know that each of these countries has different level of development, different priorities. So we should keep that in mind in analyzing, and especially in the power sector, we also should keep in mind that not all the region have the same level of resources available. Some countries don't have access to ocean type of REs, right? So they should only focus to what they have. Then we should not force countries that have a majority of their power on fossil fuel to suddenly stop using them. We call this an energy transition, so that everyone can at least chip in with something, and we want it to be just, so that no one will be left behind. Everyone will be on this long path that we know it's really, really difficult. So we should always look at the results on a regional basis, because it's the best way that we know that at least the whole region is on the point of that, at least we can achieve this level of the targets for the region. Back to you.
Thank you very much. That's a really, really good summary of your points there. So we've heard a bit about the opportunities and some of the challenges, and now we can turn our attention to the potential solutions and practically how we can achieve this. So the first question to you, Dr. Emmy, what are the key strategic recommendations that ASEAN member states should consider to effectively deploy energy storage systems?
Thanks, Nam. So given the financial challenge, technical operational challenge, and also supply chain challenge we mentioned before, really a very comprehensive, holistic approach and a really conducive ecosystem for storage implementation integration in the energy systems are really required. So there are a number of key steps that governments, regulators, system planners, operators, or project developers can take to incentivize the storage integration and system optimization to increase project bankability. The first key recommendation is to increase revenue stream of energy storage systems. For example, to recognize the economic value in providing frequency and regulation control, black start services or flexible ramping, and also through avoided costs from the deferred investment in grid upgrades or peak generation investments. And in some markets also allow this storage value to be recognized as generation capacity to receive capacity payments, or at the household level to be reflected in the solar PV feed-in tariff. So there are market-based settlement regime reform as also perhaps needed to really recognize its fast response value provided, for example, by energy storage or demand response, to really adopt perhaps a 5-minute market settlements rather than longer duration market settlements, and also incentivize longer term offtake contracts, including PPA, and contracts for difference and different financial mechanism measures to really to increase the revenue stream for these technologies. A government can also provide guarantees or financial supports for some of the demonstration projects to incentivize private sector participation. These are very important given the scale of the deployment of these technologies. Private sector participation is one of the key, I guess, to deploy widely these technologies. So operational measures also including to streamline the process to enable the grid connection of these technologies. Previously I also mentioned to encourage the co-location of mixed technologies to increase the project economics and system efficiency. Of course, there are smart management softwares can be deployed to increase the technical efficiency and optimization of this technology. Last but very important, regulatory measures. So we just mentioned to really provide the market signal and also increase the investor confidence in deploying these technology solutions. And other recommendations around planning, of course, including these technologies in the medium and longer term plan, for example, National Development Plan, for system expansion is very important. Of course, the AEO8 report plays this role at the regional level, but at the country level, it also needs to be taken into consideration and define clear regulations for the ownership and operating models of the storage to enable wider revenue streams, and also developing systems, for example, accounting, billing, metering systems to really support the deployment of these technologies. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emmy, for a very comprehensive response. Moving on to you, MJ. So from your perspective, the report identified an opportunity for ASEAN to update the APAEC as a key strategy in advancing energy efficiency, something you touched on earlier, and grid reliability. What should the update to the APAEC include?
Thanks, Nam. So yeah, as the APAIAC is one of the key documents that brings together all these countries when it comes to a strategy from the ASEAN perspective. So there is an energy efficiency and conservation related chapter in that, and if you see there, it touches upon a lot of topics, which includes maps, energy efficient buildings, energy efficient and transport. But as I'm talking about and advocating for demand response, I would love to see an angle of demand response being integrated in that. And how can they do that? Like, for example, energy efficient buildings. So we're talking about using smart devices or LEDs in there. But then why not also include including this, how to kind of use these infrastructure for demand response programs? How can, or also you're trying to engage with industries, energy efficiency in terms of energy efficient motors, but also their industrial customers are prime example of how we can include demand response. So they have hundreds and thousands of batch processes. So these industries can shift the demand patterns from peak hours to off-peak hours to help the utilities mitigate the peak load and also earn some incentives out of it. This region, as a whole, ASEAN, this document can also be a guidebook for ASEAN countries in terms of target setting. So each country, as my colleague said, are different stages of development and in different stages of energy transition. So countries who are out there, so they could put some big challenging targets for themselves, and that could lead the way for other countries who are kind of looking them as flag bearers of certain energy efficiency incentives programs. So and final thing that comes to my mind is probably I would defer to my colleagues here, the modeling team, is that why not include demand response as one of the parameters when we account for future scenarios for modeling for ASEAN countries. So different countries, most of them do not have, but some countries should have set demand response targets. So we can use that for efficient, demand forecast for different countries. So that would help kind of at least initiate the dialogue of something very important as demand response, and probably kind of instill a bit of thought and conversation around this important topic. Thanks, Nam.
Thank you, MJ. Absolutely, a really good suggestion. So finally, just wanted to get your views as well, Kyohei. So the report identified 3 key strategies to reduce carbon emissions while increasing industrial competitiveness in ASEAN. So in terms of these potential solutions, what are the required measures and how can ASEAN member states deliver them?
Okay. In AEO report, MRI and ACE have identified 3 main strategies based on Global Trade Analysis Project, GTAP. And these strategies are first, detailed consideration in carbon pricing design, and second, expansion of decarbonized energy, and third, industrial transformation aligned with decarbonization. For supporting data, please refer to the report. These findings are detailed. And the point is that we must carefully design carbon pricing mechanisms like carbon tax and ETF. GTAP analysis indicates that high carbon industries, such as petrochemicals, face risks like carbon leakage and reduced competitiveness from carbon pricing. Therefore, it is essential to include mitigation measures for these industries to address these negative impacts. At the same time, we should also be careful aligned with CBAM, European Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, to ensure cohesive and balanced strategy. That's why detailed consideration in carbon pricing design is essential. And one key to introducing carbon pricing while protecting industries is to expand decarbonized energy. Decarbonized energy, like renewable energy, can reduce the carbon intensity of energy supply. This helps ease the impact of carbon pricing on industrial sectors and can lower the cost related to carbon pricing system. GTAP analysis shows this essentially benefit high value added sectors like electronics, helps them stay competitiveness. Furthermore, ASEAN Power Grid cooperation could further optimize the distribution of clean energy. And the third strategy is industrial transformation, which is essential for ASEAN member states to develop new decarbonized industries for the future. This transformation requires investment. So revenues from carbon pricing can be reinvested in retraining workers in the fossil fuel sector and developing green technologies to support a smooth transition to a low carbon society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kyohei, and thank you very much for all the speakers, some really insightful views and thought-provoking responses that you've shared. So our last structured question, and to give the final word to AEO8's lead energy modeler, Michael. So based on your experience of developing, what is a really strong publication in AEO8, what would you say is the most important thing that all ASEAN stakeholders, which includes everybody on this webinar, could do to practically take forward the recommendations in AEO8?
Thank you again, Nam. I think one of the most important thing that all the stakeholders can learn and try to push is we should have a better we should try to develop a database for all the energy related numbers that we have, because in developing policies, in developing collaborations, in dialogues, if we know what exactly is the number, we can start from somewhere. Because if we try to reduce or have energy efficiency reduce in energy intensity, if we still try to just point or pick a number and we don't know what exactly is the number, it will be harder for everyone to start. It will be easier if we have a better database management for each of the countries that each of us can learn. And with this numbers, I think we can do better models, better policies, to say the least. Then for each, let's say, just to be like, how can I contribute as a person just in my at home? We can try to be if we still use traditional fuel types, we can still try to think about what will be the future. Then, because the lesser the demand that we the demand that we as a whole have, the lesser the consumption or the generation that we need to be supplied. So if the lesser we demand, the lesser the supply, the less emission that we have as a whole region. That's all. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you to all of our speakers for their very insightful thoughts about some of the potential opportunities and solutions to help manage ASEAN's demand and supply as part of the energy transition. This brings the formal panel session to a close, so please join me in showing our appreciation with a virtual round of applause. So thank you very much. So we will now move on to some audience participation. So can I please ask you to kindly open your Menti, and there'll just be a question that's appeared. Yes, it's just up on the screen there. So how can ASEAN manage energy demand effectively? So there's been some kind of interesting thoughts shared by our speakers and MJ in particular. but we're really interested in hearing from your perspectives. So we have a few minutes here, so you can have a think about it. Try and keep your submissions to one sentence or a few words, and you can see that some of the responses have already appeared, and they'll continue to appear on screen as they are submitted. Look, that's great. Now we're getting some really recurring themes here. Reducing consumption. That's obviously a really important message from AEO8. Smart demand response, energy storage technology. Some really good good contributions here. Energy efficiency. It looks like your message, MJ, has come through, one of the lowest hanging fruits. Yeah, so if I understand correctly, this is a word cloud type of arrangement. So the larger text is the larger words are the ones that are more recurring. So you can see in the middle there, some really core key principles: smart demand response, energy efficiency, reducing consumption, and energy conservation. Pretty important and fundamental concepts. So we can just give this one a few more seconds. Please take your time to add something if you haven't already. But I think that's really clear, and if from my perspective, certainly consistent with a lot of the key messages and recommendations from AEO8. And we'll just give it another 10 seconds before we close this one. And we just have one more audience question, which we can move on to now, if that's okay. So the next question, again, keen to get the audience views here, is how can ASEAN facilitate the energy transition effectively? So this is a really broad and big question. So yeah, expecting a wider variety of answers here, but there are no wrong answers. And so please, again, give this some thought, and we have another few minutes so that you can have a think about it, and responses will appear on the screen as they are submitted. ASEAN Power Grid, you can see that's front and center on my screen here, something that I don't think we've touched on so far as part of the panel discussion, but I know there's been at least a few questions raised in the Menti about this, and so certainly be keen to get some of our speakers' views on that. Collaboration, I think that's been a recurring message and point of discussion throughout. Clear national targets, carbon pricing, supporting private sector, data management. Really good broad range of topics and concepts here. Transition finance, regional synergy, educating the people. That's a really important point that certainly came through in a few of the responses from our speakers. So we'll just give this one a few more seconds and just give everybody the opportunity to submit your last responses to this one. But while we're wrapping up, just like to say thank you to everyone that's opened their Menti and contributed to both this question and the previous one. So I think we can now close this poll and move on to the next session, which will be on questions. And so picking up, I think, on a couple of those points that were really resonated as part of both of those audience polls and the word clouds. So maybe we can start off with just the most recent one, and that's around the ASEAN power grid. And so certainly be keen to hear our speakers' views, and maybe we can start off with you, Michael, specifically with respect to AEO8, but then also invite responses from our other speakers. So how does the ASEAN power grid, how does interconnections, both bilateral as well as multilateral trading, serve a primary role in the AEO8, and also just more broadly in ASEAN's energy transition? So perhaps over to you first, Michael, for your thoughts.
Thank you again. For the role of the interconnection for the ASEAN power grid, actually for our RAS and CNS scenario, the plans for ASEAN power grid was implemented. So we included all the currently in operation lines, then the planned constructions in the future. As far as we try to analyze the results, I think the most important part is its impact on the trade, the supply demand for electricity for the different countries. So some countries has lesser demand for annually, comparing it with a scenario without this interconnection. So this interconnectivity between the regions will help in terms of some of the demand will be lower compared to if it's not connected. Then also some countries that really depends on fossil fuel will likely benefit from this, because they can actually purchase some of their electricity demand from regions with a surplus for electricity coming from RE. So hopefully in an ideal scenario by 2050, all of these lines is operational. We will see the benefit of this new RE technologies being built for each countries, these energy storages. What will be its impact for the interconnectivity, and what will be its direct effect for this region, that they can move faster than before into a cleaner power generation. Thank you.
Great. So thank you, Michael. So maybe Dr. Remy, if I can bring you into this as well. So obviously the interconnections, ASEAN power grid, a large part of the proposition of this is to increase the share of renewable energy. I guess we're keen for your thoughts both on the ASEAN power grid and multilateral trade question, but also other specific measures designed to increase the share of renewable energy in ASEAN, in addition to ASEAN power grid, in addition to a lot of the stuff you've already talked about with respect to energy storage. So yeah, keen to share your thoughts, Dr. Remy?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nam. I think it's not a simple answer, given we're running out of time. Of course, we have been focusing on supply side, demand side, but one critical component, of course, is the interconnecting supply side and this demand side. So to really maximize the efficiency of either supply side or demand side, we really need to have a very strong grid to support the system efficiency and the operation, all the technical requirements of these new technologies, to really help to maximize the utilization of the zero low marginal cost renewable energy, avoid the curtailment of renewable energy, and really optimize at the system level or at the regional level to increase the resource utilization, the asset utilization. It is not a simple answer. Of course, there are huge benefits to have a strong grid. Of course, challenges, as we said earlier as well, it applies to all technologies, all investments, its financial and business case, especially cross-border infrastructure is very challenging due to, involve of multiple stakeholders, jurisdictions, and of course, you need to synchronize the technical standards across borders, across countries, and of course, optimize among the system development plan across countries as well. So it's a huge challenge. But I think ASEAN as a whole has realized it can become a very powerful tool or methods to actually help the region achieve net zero carbon neutrality, to bring the carbon intensity while building the new industries to support the economic growth and development in the region. I'll stop here so other panelists can respond as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Remy. So perhaps one last perspective on this question might be useful, and I know MJ, that's something that you've done a lot in your sort of career with. Kind of any reflections from your perspective about these topics?
Really interesting. I mean, we have been talking about the ASEAN Power Grid since 1999, and it's getting some traction. Good to see that. So I'm trying to see, because I'm talking about demand response today, so I can see both of this, like ASEAN Power Grid is of utmost importance. It's a dream come true for the ASEAN power sector and the countries in general. So I see demand, and as you said, it would for sure help increase the penetration of RE, and countries can bilaterally trade green power among them. So, and where I see demand response is going hand in hand with a very successful ASEAN power grid. So every country is kind of a very evolved demand response mechanism. And when, for say, the bilateral interconnectors are congested, so they can use demand response as a mechanism to not curtail renewable energy, to probably incentivize the customers inside the countries, probably, so that yes, there's no curtailment of renewable energy, but still the lines, the transmission lines are not congested. They do not need to build a new power plant, a peaking power plant, that to a dirty one. So yeah, I see both of them as aligning technologies, and both of them could develop hand in hand in the coming years to kind of drive this energy transition through this region. Thanks, Sam.
Right. So thank you very much for sharing your views on that really, really hot topic. So maybe just have one more sort of question that's come through and that's related to the demand side from industry. And so, I think maybe this one's firstly directed to you, Michael, but certainly keen, to hear from the views of others. And it's in relation to increases in demand for energy from new data centers. So, probably the question to you, firstly, Michael, is how does AEO8 seek to address this? And then maybe if there are views about how future iterations of the AEO will handle this. It's really about understanding, large new increases in industrial demand. Keen for your views on this one, Michael.
Sure. For the data center, actually, there are a lot of dialogues during the development of the model. During the workshops, we talk about what will be the impact of this data centers in the demand. So as for the Outlook 8, we tried to look at it if and see if we can actually try to implement it as a different branch for the demand. But I think we still lack the numbers, the data for it for this one for the region. It's still on the early stage. So hopefully for the next iteration, this can be maybe a part of the commercial sector or maybe a separate one. Depends on the number from each of the AMS, because we base mainly our numbers for the demand from the historicals of the submitted numbers from each AMS. So if we found that it's significant and we can separate it from the other sector, I think we can include it for the future iterations. Then for this data center, I think we can maximize different types of energy generation technologies to support this type of demand from the data centers. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for that response, Michael. Yes, please, Dr.
I
Remy.
just want to create something then. Yes, I do actually see this is a great opportunity for ASEAN countries to scale up the clean energy capacity as well, because this is particularly demand and it can be supported by specific clean energy capacities. Of course, this brings us back to the question, the regional collaboration or regional energy connectivity, which can really help to achieve this goal to really transport the clean energy from where there is abundant sources to the demand center where perhaps have less renewable energy resources. So all the pieces are important, but energy connectivity and the regional collaboration particularly are very important in this context as well. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that response as well. Dr. Remy, we are at time, and so I will unfortunately have to bring this session to a close unless there are any burning desires from any of our other speakers to make one last point on this question.
Can I make a quick point on data centers and demand response? Because because they are prime candidate for a successful demand response program. I mean, and there have been successful case studies even from somebody like Google, who has actually managed their data centers effectively and especially this has happened, and this should be used in extreme weather events where there's been a need for there's some breakdown in probably the electric infrastructure, and data centers have modulated their non-critical demands or operations to certain hours so that they can utilities can manage the grid operations more effectively. So I guess like as we are talking about supplying data centers with green and clean energy, I can say that we can actually use them. And as more and more data centers are coming up in this region, there could be a prime example of and candidates for integrating them into a successful commercial scale demand response program. They have cooling loads, they have non-critical processes that can easily be shifted to off-peak hours, and it'll be helping the grid operators quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ. That's a really important contribution, and appreciate your response. Unfortunately, we are at time for this session, so I will have to bring this to a close, but I just wanted to thank all four of you speakers for the excellent insights. I wanted to thank you as the audience for your great participation and thought-provoking questions submitted to our speakers. So this will bring a close to our panel session, but before I do, there is just one last question for you as the audience on Menti to help us design the next webinar. So we won't be showing this up on screen and you can do it in the background, but I please invite you to open up your Menti and provide your response to the question, what would you like to learn more about the AEO8 report in the next webinar? Similarly, keep the submissions to one sentence. The question will remain open in Menti, so please do take your time to share your thoughts. Thank you again to our fantastic speakers, the ACE team, and all participants for contributing to a really engaging panel session. Many thanks. Sorry for going over time. Back over to you, Amira.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Now. What a wonderful session. I've learned a lot during the sessions, really, and I'm happy that there are various questions that actually posed on Menti as well. And before we begin the last session, which is the closing remarks, one of the things that I would like to highlight, feel free to access again the Mentis for the survey. And if there are any further questions, feel free to put that on the Q&A sections, as we can actually share that to you throughout via email to answer the remaining questions that are not yet answered. And without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Zulfikar Yunaidi, our Head of Energy Modeling and Policy Planning at ACE, to deliver his closing remarks. The time is yours, Dr. Zulfikar.
Hello, I hope I am audible to everyone. Once again, I just want to say thank you very much for everyone joining in today's webinar for the ASEAN Energy Outlook or the AEO8. I enjoyed the discussions, especially with our esteemed panelists, and also the discussion with the Q&As and also the Menti and also the quizzes in the start. So please allow me to provide the closing remarks for today's event. So Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, guests, and also esteemed participants, good afternoon again. It's such a pleasure to see all the dedicated individuals on the webinar today. We are currently at a critical moment in shaping our future's energy landscape, including in ASEAN. As mentioned, we are currently ending our ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, or the APAIC, and we are currently working on the next cycle of the APAIC for 2026 until 2030, with a vision until 2045. And I do believe that the development of the ASEAN Energy Outlook 8 would play a critical role in designing the next cycle of the APAIC. From the discussions, we see that how the energy efficiency can significantly reduce energy consumption across the regions. So it is very vital for us to shape our economy so we can keep our economic growth while decoupling the need for the energy and also pursuing an energy transition towards a low carbon development that is just and also inclusive. We also noted the innovations in technological advantage need to be adopted in the regions, especially to show our commitment in scaling up the efforts in supplying clean energy resources. Many of these potentials will be very important in the hard-to-abate sectors, such as industry and also transport. Technologies such as CCS, hydrogen, ammonia, nuclear will be very, very important. And notwithstanding the need for the infrastructure, such as grid, as well as charging infrastructure. So we also see that the fostering public-private partnership and regional cooperations will be very, very important for ASEAN, so we can effectively adopt the technologies while mitigating the financial risks. We also noted the importance of supplying electricity to rural areas in the report, as I mentioned before, in realizing a just and inclusive energy transition. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our explorations of these potential strategies, it really clearly shows that ASEAN must adopt a multi-faceted approach that embraces a mix of various solutions, be it in the demand sector, in the end-use sector, as well as in the supply sectors. All resources need to be optimized, all technologies need to be explored, all of the risking mechanisms and financial models need to be optimized for the regions achieving its energy transition toward low carbon development. As I mentioned before, I'm quite excited to see the participant responses during the audience poll. And while the answers vary, I think all are essentials in shaping the future of energy, especially in ASEAN. So we will discuss and absorb this idea, especially on how we can address the energy issues within specific sectors. We also noted the importance of having a cross-cutting solutions in topics that not only involving the energy, but also the related sectors such as emissions, land use, jobs creations, economic development, supply chains, etc., etc. We also noted the importance of interconnectivity and interconnected strategies, especially within the platform of ASEAN, so we can achieve this just and inclusive energy transition. Wrapping this up, we face unique supply and demand challenges, especially in the energy, in which we have to balance the rising energy consumptions coming from our economic growth with the sustainability goals. It's not only require renewable energy capacity, but also reliable energy supply through existing infrastructure and also diversified energy sources. So managing the supply-demand balance will be very important so we can achieve both our energy security, economic growth, as well as progressing toward a net zero goal. So I do hope that the diverse perspective that shared throughout our discussion today illustrate the combinations of the various sectoral as well as holistic approach is vital in addressing these challenges. As I move forward, let us remain dedicated to the principles of cooperation and shared prosperity, ensuring that ASEAN not only meets its energy needs, but also leads the way in sustainable energy development for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, last, I would like to express once again my gratitude to all participants today. And please stay in tune with our next webinar to discuss AEO8 results, which is coming in 25th November. We are also going to visit the countries, the government officers, the universities, as well as other institutions to disseminate and also discuss the results of the AEO8. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone, the AEMS working group members, as to develop and finalize the AEO8, the partners creating this AEO8, especially colleagues from the P4I that co-organized this event today with us. Thank you very much for your contributions and engagement in this event. And together we can turn our discussions into actionable strategies that will define the future of energy in ASEAN. Thank you very much. Back to you, Amira.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zulfikar. What a nice wrap up, I think, on what we've been discussing throughout the day, and also to highlight again and reiterated what has been said by Dr. Zulfikar. The next one would be on 25th November on Monday, same time, definitely not the same Zoom link. So please do register by scanning the QR code or just like type it on your phone, go to aseanenergy.org/AEO8 public webinar 2. So the second webinar would actually provide us with the new insights from different perspective and different sector, because now we've talking from demand and supply. The next one would be something that is also still discussing the AEO8 results, but from a different angle and perspective. And next slide, please. And of course, if you haven't actually downloaded, we would like to strongly encourage you to download our 8th ASEAN Energy Outlook. There are various versions. There is the full report. There is the executive summary. There is also the videos that you've seen earlier today as a reference for you to understand better the results, the modeling results that we have actually laying out on this. So please download that on go.aseanenergy.org/AEO8. And then one thing for sure, I would like to remind again that please do see our publications and connect with us on several of our social media as well. So we look forward for your participation, and this this session is recorded and will be uploaded on YouTube, and the presentations that has been presented by Ms. Rika previously will be shared as well online. So please do engage with us, and we look forward to seeing you again on 25th November on the second ASEAN Energy Outlook webinar. Say goodbye and thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.